And you start the show. Thank you. Welcome back to the State of Football, Part 50. What a special show. Thank you, everybody who's tuned in from day one. And now we're on Part 50. Of course, the State of Football with Ric Serritella here in New Jersey, along with my co-host, John Murphy, Vice President and Director of Player Personnel for the Toronto Argonauts down in New Orleans, Louisiana. And we've got Big Law back on a Friday, Football Friday, I shall say, game previews and predictions. Cities ShopTalk. Make sure you check him out Wednesdays, right? Wednesdays at 12? Am I getting it right? Tuesdays at 12. Right. We'll get it tight. And we're going to go around the horn and preview some college football games, preview some NFL matchups. Looking forward to getting it on. So let's dive into it. Just a quick update here. I saw Diana Rossini a few minutes ago saying that there was no new positives. In fact, every Titans member tested negative. So the Tuesday shift is on. The Thursday night football game being moved. Before we get into our game previews, we did preview last night's matchup between the Buccaneers and Bears. We were all wrong. Quick hit here, John. I guess, the one thing we all forgot to mention is Nick Foles is the kryptonite to Tom Brady, and you saw him pull it out there with the heroics once again.
Yeah, their kryptonite last night was throwing it to Cordell Patterson when he's lined up at different spots. They didn't seem to, to cover that twice, and it kind of bit them, there. And the one thing the Bears have is they have that defense, and they turned up the pressure. You could tell that it definitely got to Brady at times. May have even got to Brady. It'll be, it's not something, we'll see if Bruce Arians, has the schnooks to come out today and, put his quarterback on the firing line again, like he did after week one. But I don't really remember. I've seen a game where I think Colorado got 5 downs. I've never seen a game where the quarterback didn't know he was on 4th down, in that situation. So one, I would have thought that would have been something they were mentioning in your headset. Maybe they didn't think you need to do that with Tom Brady to remember the sticks. It's 4th down. Type thing, but quite the defensive effort, by the Bears, especially in the second half, and they controlled, most of the things they wanted to do. Right, Scotty Miller never really got involved. They had Evans a couple of times, but Evans a few times was matched up with Jalen Johnson, and they didn't take advantage of it. There it was a much cleaner effort out of Gronkowski in terms of getting him the ball. The tight ends were much more involved. I think you liked what you saw out of Ronald Jones. If you're a Buccaneers fan or you're expecting the Bucs to go far, some of those runs by Ronald Jones where he just takes it north-south, now, and he's not trying to bounce everything to the outside. But that offensive line in a big moment, that might be a tease. If you want 2 areas that you could see Tom Brady wondering if it was 4th down or wondering how things came to a close. It might be the play of that offensive line. And the other thing is you flip it around the other side. Now, I am as high on Darnell Mooney as anybody after watching him, down here at Tulane. If Carlton Davis cannot cover a rookie Darnell Mooney, the Bucs defense will get lit up at some point in time, by a better offense. And that's a problem. So you saw Foles ran off, about 9, 10, 11 completions in a row, that really got them back in the game. And the difference maker last night, it was a much cleaner game on special team. But knock on wood, here's another Tulaner, Cairo Santos, with a really clean performance, because those were a couple of kicks that I guarantee Bears fans and even the Bucs coaches were surprised that he cleanly converted, on field goals like that. So good for him, a guy that had a lot of early success as an undrafted free agent with Kansas City, ended up getting injured, has bounced around, and, quite a performance by both him and Ryan Suckup, who have both had their share of injuries. But that was a much bigger win for the Bears, to be 4-1. They're not chasing down the Packers just yet, even though the record would tell you otherwise. Because it's hard to tell somebody that they're the worst 4-1 team in football, but they are. But they're still 4-1 because They can't run the ball. They have their own deficiencies. But like I said, that pass rush, can be the neutralizer against better teams. And it was last night. So big win for the Bears. They're suddenly very much in the mix, outside of the teams that are, in first place in their division. Forget about the NFC Easy, but which no one cares about at the moment, but they're right there in the mix. And now the Bucs can go from having had a chance to increase their lead in the NFC South to where if the Saints play on Monday night and defeat the Chargers, the Bucs are now in second place at 3-2. So they start to not have the easiest path if they fall back into more of that contender spot rather than first place.
Yeah, a big win there. I mean, a very big win, really, because when you take a look at it, Tampa Bay is not winning that division either in the NFC North. So this game actually could come down to a wild card spot. I mean, it could come down to the Bucs and the Bears for one of those final wild card spots. You mentioned trying to cover Darnell Mooney. Of course, we had him out at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. Easier said than done there. And you mentioned the offensive line and Khalil Mack. Reservations for 6 in the backfield. I mean, you saw the last sack and Brady's face just, when he got knocked down again, he looked over and saw it was Mack. He's like, not that Mack again. Return to the Mack, Khalil Mack. And then you saw what he did to the rookie, Tristan Wirfs, just arm locked him like it was WWF, 300-plus pounds like nothing. You mentioned Cairo Santos. Well, we'll transition there with Tulane in action last night. They were actually, I think, leading at halftime, or they were up for the first half of the game. Houston mounts a comeback. Marquez Stevenson, who we're monitoring, a very fast, electrifying playmaking wide receiver there for Houston. He has a 41-yard touchdown catch, I think a 97-yard kick return or punt return for a touchdown to swing the pendulum there and get the momentum going for Houston in their first game. So they're back now in the mix with some AAC action. And then tonight we have ACC action. The lone game on the docket, it will be Louisville at Georgia Tech. Two programs here who are kind of rebuilding, right? Scott Satterfield and Jeff Collins, both in their second year, I believe. Louisville starting the season in the top 25. In fact, both of these teams getting a W in the first week of the season. Georgia Tech upsetting Florida State there. Since then, both teams have lost both of their games. So, ACC matchup on the docket. I think we have Big Law back. We're going to pop him up, Samantha. And I will say there is some history here between these two head coaches going back to 2010. Scott Satterfield, the OC, Jeff Collins, the DC on that FIU team. Quick preview here tonight, Big Law in the ACC. Louisville.
Oh, gotcha. Louisville, yes. Well, I can tell you, Louisville. Thanks. I'm back with it. So Louisville, they're actually, in my opinion, they're looking like they're going to be the up-and-coming team. Looks like they have a replacement for Lamar Jackson with Malik Cunningham. Now, I'm not sure exactly if he's going to reach the level that Lamar did, but I'm looking for him to make some more spectacular plays. I mean, he leads with Trevor Lawrence with the most passing TDs in the ACC with 7. So I'm looking for Louisville to show out against Georgia Tech. I know that Georgia Tech is definitely on the rise with their new coach in the past. The conversion from running the ball with the triple option type of a system and going strictly with more of a passing game. I'm still not a believer, in that system that he's trying to implement, but it's going to take a while to convert that roster over. So I'm just looking for Malik Cunningham to give us some more highlights and to continue to reestablish Louisville as a threat in the ACC.
Yeah, they got a lot of weapons on that offense. Tutu Atwell, Des Fitzpatrick, the sophomore running back there is just a handful to try to take down in the open field. Really elusive, good-looking back there. And, of course, we're here on the State of Football, Part 50 edition. Ric Serritella, John Murphy and Big Law breaking it down. Make sure you log on to the NFLDraftBible.com. We've got the 2021 virtual draft guide now available, featuring 300-plus scouting reports. We're adding to it daily. And oh, by the way, you go all access, subscribe all access. You'll get a free copy of Scout Speak, our good friend Neil Stratton at Inside the League. A bonus there for you while supplies last. They're going off like hotcakes, so make sure you get down on that. We have a new show tomorrow, NFL Draft Tailgate. We will be airing every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. It will be a college football preview with an NFL Draft slant. Tomorrow, I'll be joined by John Murphy, Ryan Roberts, David Turner, and we will break down all the college football action even more in depth with a highlight on top prospects, risers, sliders, and the latest draft buzz, who's opting in, who's opting out. But tonight we're going to go dive into our college football preview here. I guess the big game on the docket, number 4 Florida at number 21 Texas A&M. This game is on at noon Eastern time, ESPN. A lot of big games at noon. This is obviously one of those SEC kind of, find out who's a contender, who's a pretender type deal. The Gators traveling down to College Station. We've seen the quarterback and tight end there with Trask to Pitts. I look for a whole lot of that to continue. And, Kellen Mond is a guy that we continue to kind of monitor his progress, try to get a feel for him here. But I think Florida wins this one pretty easily. Texas A&M, I just don't believe that they are on that contender level. Whereas, I think the Gators here, John, are a serious threat for the college football playoffs. Yeah,
I think you saw it last week, and that's quite a scheduling scenario to play Alabama 1 week and come back even at home against Florida. That's what you're going to have to hope for. But really Texas A&M's shot to be the top 10 team coming off that type of schedule would be with the crowd, right? And you're not getting an audience. Instead of getting a Friday or Saturday night game with the audience at Texas A&M, you're getting a daytime start, no audience participation. I think that's a difficult road, to travel. And what you saw last week was Alabama has all their guys. A&M is short a couple of people who opted out, a few of their better athletes, one receiver, I believe, and one linebacker, and it's some of their better guys. And it's just, hey, this is going to be very, very difficult. And it's not only SEC. We'll get to it, when we move to a couple of other games on the schedule. Right now, that is not a great place. The state of football in Florida, you can make the case that, Florida State's having the struggles, but you got Miami in the right spot. You have Florida turned around, and you've had those other programs take their turns between FAU, and FIU, making headway and playing in bowl games. You start looking at it the other way. This is not where A&M expected to be when they hired, Jimbo Fisher. And you are going through an entire circle with Kellen Mond, from recruit, to freshman, sophomore, now to junior, and, finishing off the senior year. You're out of the top 25 with another double-digit loss, to Florida, which in all indications, you're just hoping for a close 41-31, right? You're just hoping that this is not a 52-14 again, this week. But without a win, number one, you're out of the top 25. And number two, you've already social distanced yourself from any kind of meaningful bowl game, at this point. If you play Alabama and Florida and get dusted by 38 one time and a real double-digit loss here, it starts, making you wonder how many of these top-tier programs are going to give it a push because of everything that's gone on this year, and how many of them are going to look at it and go, in all seriousness, how would these games have played out any differently if they were regularly scheduled or, I think you got to start looking at Florida is at a really different place with Dan Mullen. than where Jimbo Fisher currently has Texas A&M. I'm not looking for it to be as close as that. I think third or fourth quarter that Florida can pull away, and only if they're sitting, and that's not a great sign either, right? If you're saying only if they're sitting Trask and they're real guys, could I see A&M close the gap from a 2-3 score game to a 1-2 score game? That's not great. You're not there for moral victories, when you're at Texas A&M. It's a different story if you're Vanderbilt, and you play A&M 12-7. But Texas A&M does not think of themselves as a team that's battling to be just at the bottom of the top 25. They, much like Texas and others, really thought that their top 10, top 15 ranking that they had was justifiably deserved, and it proved to be not so much.
Yeah, and I think, when you have that Jimbo Fisher money, that type of contract, there is no buy. There is no pass. You got to see results. Now, we got another noon game on ABC against two ranked opponents. Again, there in the ACC, number 19, Virginia Tech, traveling to number 8, North Carolina. We've talked about Mac Brown, the great job he's done there recruiting. Virginia Tech has brought in some great transfers. Khalil Herbert, if you're a follower of the show, I've been tooting that horn. But I just realized, too, my guy, well, he's not my guy anymore because he transferred away from Rutgers. But Raheem Blackshear, I don't even know if he's playing this season or if he's doing the redshirt thing, but a guy that was extremely talented coming out of high school and flashed a lot there at Rutgers before transferring to Virginia Tech. Maybe if he knew about Khalil Herbert, he wouldn't be transferring to Virginia Tech. But take it away, Law, here as the Hokies travel on into NC and take on the Tar Heels.
Well, this is what I have to say. Rain, wind, and mud. I know that the rain is coming. I know that, whenever you have this weather, and this is what we kind of go through sometimes down here, whether you're in the South, where my man John is, or you're in the Mid-Atlantic, it's hurricane season for us. So running the ball is essential. And Virginia Tech is running, they're averaging over 300 yards a game rushing the ball. And when you got my man Herbert running the ball the way that he is, I kind of look at this kid and I say, man, he kind of came on the scene unexpectedly to run the way that he's running. And it seems like Virginia Tech is getting back to what they have always done well, which is beamer ball, which is running the ball and playing defense and being steady and sometimes spectacular on special teams. And I see UNC and the quarterback, Sam Howell, has not got on track yet. And as he's not gotten on track yet, are we going to see him finally, deal with the pass rush of Virginia Tech? Or, are they going to continue to try to have a balanced offense? And for me, I just don't see UNC beating Virginia Tech right now. I think that Virginia Tech has kind of found who they are. They're going to run the ball. The weather, is going to be a factor. And when you have that going on, I think that Herbert is due for another big game. They call them mutters. Guys who can really run in any condition. I think he's a mutter. And I'm ready to see him run around and surprise UNC. I think UNC is a good team, but you're only going to go as far with that team as your quarterback is going to take you.
Yeah, I think that considering the weather, you take the fans out of the equation. Normally, I would go with UNC here, but I think it's going to be a lot closer. And really, I think Virginia Tech does hold a legitimate shot of winning this game outright. And boy, wouldn't that really inject a nice boost into their top 25 rankings here early on into the season. So again, that one's on ABC at noon Eastern. Another one on at noon Eastern, John, this one on Fox over in the Big 12 territory. You've got number 22 Texas and Tom Herman traveling into Oklahoma to take on Lincoln Riley. The Sooners here playing a reverse role this week. They're on the upset alert, trying to play the role of the underdog and coming out with the victory here at home.
Yeah, so here we have, now a 2-1 Texas team that has played little or no defense, and a 1-2 Oklahoma team that has played no or less defense than that. And these are two teams that you look back last year, they struggled on that side of the ball. It's been now a struggle, at both universities to play defensively. Spencer Rattler now has a chance to kind of quiet all of that, with a victory over Texas. A loss, whoever loses this, is going to be subject to a lot of ridicule moving forward. Now, if it's Oklahoma and it's another shootout, it's again going to be on that side of the ball because you did know you were going to get some turnovers, and possibly some spectacular plays out of Spencer Rattler, and you were going to have to deal with the factor that you had a young quarterback with an inexperienced backfield, losing his best receiver, the best weapons that they had. For Texas, here you are with Sam Ehlinger, and as a senior, this is going to be your measuring stick. You have to bounce back. You're the team with the veteran players. You're the team with the better, opportunity here, to still chase down what you were trying to do. But this is a game you have to win, and from what I've seen, Oklahoma just does not seem to have enough to stop anybody on a regular basis. And Texas, as bad as they are on one side of the ball, they're averaging 50 a game. So can Oklahoma even slow them down to something in the 30s? I'm not sure Oklahoma can do that. And if they have to put it all on Spencer Rattler again, can he go for 400? Yes. Can he throw 3, 4, 5 touchdowns? Yes. The problem is it's going to come with some turnovers if you have to just purely try to outscore opposing teams. And I think what everybody right now understands in the Big 12 is they cannot play defense at all. They're bad at it. They don't have a good enough scheme, it seems like, and their talent is just not either up to the par that it's been in the past or is having a struggle to turn it around. And this is a team that gave up 63 to LSU, had the whole offseason to gather some momentum and know who they were playing this year with a freshman and some younger guys in the backfield, and you're right back at it again, not able to do anything, not able to, keep down Kansas State or Iowa State. Well, Kansas State and Iowa State's offense has nothing on Texas. That's, like I said, averaging 51 a game. And so I see Texas winning this game and Oklahoma, being 1-3. But it's a bad news in either direction. You lose this game off of how these two teams have played, your football department is going to be under duress, especially on the defensive side of the ball for Oklahoma. If Texas were to go in there and lose, Tom Herman is in the same spot that we mentioned with Jumbo Fisher, because Sam Ehlinger, as a senior, and you have the better players right now, you have the better roster, you can excuse away a loss to Texas Tech because they're always playing these weird shootout games against clubs. But you can't then turn around and lose to Oklahoma after the way that Oklahoma has played against inferior Big 12 foes. So if you're Texas and you go in here now and lose, it is not going to be just on the defensive side of the ball. Tom Herman's going to have a hot seat there, if you lose with the senior quarterback and the better team. So I think Texas has done enough so far, to come out of this with a 45-38, type victory. Oklahoma, man, it's tough. It's tough to watch because there's no defense being played there.
Welcome to the Big 12. Spencer Rattler Heisman hopes that's gone pretty flatline as well. Again, that's noon Eastern on Fox. Really a lot of great games on the college football docket. Back over to the SEC, 3:30. This one on CBS. It'll be number 14 Tennessee at number 3 Georgia. These are two, kind of SEC heavyweights in my opinion. They're on a collision course here. UGA, I think, favored by 12.5. No way. This is going to be very close. You saw Tennessee beat South Carolina. You saw them dismantle Missouri, I think it was last week. They've now won 8 games in a row, dating back to last year. Jeremy Pruitt there with a veteran signal caller and my Jersey guy, Jarrett Garantino. And then, Stetson Bennett, what can you say about that kid and how he steered the ship there for Georgia? But, Law, I'll get your quick take on this one. I think Georgia kind of too much on the defensive side up front, dominates the line of scrimmage, ekes one out at home against the Volunteers.
Yeah, I'm not a believer in Tennessee. I kind of think that 14th ranking is a little bit of SEC love coming from some of the folks who do the rankings. But Georgia, yeah, as usual, full of athletic defenders, causing havoc, safeties, safeties, pass rushers, athletic linebackers. It's just what Georgia is. And I just look for Georgia to continue to be just the standard, in their SEC division that they're in. So I'm not a believer in Tennessee, but you're absolutely right. I think Georgia is going to win this game, and I think it's going to be handedly.
Yeah, you could argue that secondary is about as good as it gets in the whole entire country, that is for Georgia. So I think that translates into at least one turnover, maybe 2 picks. But I don't know if they cover that big point spread. I think it's going to be closer than Vegas is predicting there. Okay, Florida State at Notre Dame. We'll get both of your opinions on this one. But, John, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish sitting at number 5. This is kind of a trap game with Florida State, kind of lurking, under, dead and buried, people throwing dirt on their grave. This one's going to be in prime time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Do the Seminoles have a shot here to get back with the program?
So Notre Dame has missed 2.5, 3 weeks here, with all the COVID issues that they've had going on since the last time we saw them. What we've seen out of Florida State. They're going to go with a third quarterback, Jordan Travis. It's going to be a lot of Sebo Flemister possibly treating them like Debo, big boying them. And the other part is, man, what you really like if you watch Notre Dame is, man, they got some tight end play there. And the Tommy Tremble kid gives you what you're looking for. If you like the motion tight ends that everybody in the NFL seems to be going for. And Michael Mayer, I know we're getting pretty close to Halloween, but Michael Mayer could be a nightmare to try to cover for Florida State. I think the factor that they've had the time off, they haven't had a play. You have a senior a quarterback in Ian Book, and you have a upper class driven defense that is starting to look a lot different. That's the number one thing in the past 3 years. If you watch Notre Dame football, that looks completely different. This is not your grandfather or father's Notre Dame looking football team, as there are some genuine A-plus athletes running around at various positions for them. So you give me that offensive line, and we all know what we think of that line. Right now, the playmakers they have on defense, Florida State has a shot if they stay inside after the anthem. But if you come out, you got a better chance of catching an ass whipping than COVID this week, because it's not going to be good.
Well, listen, you did mention the hiatus Notre Dame. They could come out rusty. Florida State, new quarterback here in the mix. Big Law, as you know, when there's not a lot of film to break down, sometimes those new quarterbacks, they can come out of the gates, catch you off guard. You giving Florida State a fighter's chance here?
Not at all, man. I'm looking – when I see that, I've seen Florida State play, man. They are absolutely terrible. They are not, the Florida State that I'm used to seeing, the Charlie Wards and the Derek Brookses. It's just not there. I don't know if it's definitely the talent maybe isn't as what we would expect coming from a Florida State program. And maybe the coaching, as well. The coaching seems like it just hasn't clicked with what they have for this coaching regime and the past. On the other hand, Notre Dame, you're absolutely right, John. Notre Dame, their athletes, they look amazing. They have come to me to see. I look at them as the next kind of like tight end where they're just between them and Iowa, just churning out these extra athletic and dynamic tight ends that can go to the next level and be difference makers. And Notre Dame and Ian Book, I just think that they're just gonna once they get in the rhythm, they may be a little rusty, but once they get going, I'm looking for like a 20-some point victory. I can't put the quite 20 what, but it's a 20-some point victory. I don't see Florida State really, cutting the mustard on in any part of this game with these guys. So I'm looking at a 20-plus win, 20-point-plus win for Notre Dame.
I would tend to agree with you guys. I mean, they could barely, take care of business against Jacksonville State the other day. So I don't think they have a shot here against Notre Dame. But I'll tell you what, the ACC's got a good-looking shot at these college football playoffs. To talk about Notre Dame now at number 5, joining the ACC this year. And then, maybe, again, another contender for the game of the week, 2 ACC games or 2 ACC teams. Number 7, Miami, at number 1, Clemson. And I'll tell you what, with the Notre Dame or Miami win, there could be, 2 or 3 of these ACC teams in the college football playoff mix here. But, Clemson, of course, number 1 in the nation, a big 2-touchdown favorite. People I've spoken to feel like this could get ugly. 7:30 p.m. on ABC. How do you see it, Big Law?
As I said before, this is a game that will be affected by weather. I talked about the mutter, all right? The mutter that was in Virginia Tech. Now, there is a real mutter, okay, in Clemson, all right? And Travis Etienne is the ultimate mutter. This guy will break as many tackles as any running back in the nation. And I don't see Miami really coming in and doing anything as far as slowing them down, especially in these conditions. Now, Miami, they will, make some plays, but they run the up-tempo style with Derek King. They like to throw the ball around, but, in the weather that's coming, I just don't see it happening. I'm looking at Travis Etienne doing his thing, Trevor Lawrence, all right? And don't forget, this guy has some wheels as well. I know Derek King has some wheels, but Trevor Lawrence with his size, you don't look at a 6'6", 240-pound quarterback and think that, he can't move. You think he's more of a drop back guy. I stood by him at the ACC championship, and I felt like just someone who was very small compared to this guy, and he's highly athletic just watching him move around, on the field. And then you got Amari Rodgers, who, in my opinion, is probably the best receiver in the ACC. And it's just a matter of time before those guys definitely get into their rhythm and just continue to blow the whole entire ACC away. I mean, 14 points, I think, is doable. It could be a little tighter with the weather, but just look for ATN to have a great game. And then they have some young backups that come off the bench as well, a freshman or two that are going to have some great games as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the mobility of Trevor Lawrence. Kind of reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger when he was at Miami, Ohio. Just a big guy, move around when needed. Now, obviously, as the years have gone on, Big Ben not fooling anybody with any kind of mobility there, but very similar in terms of, big man can move around. Sometimes when you don't expect it, pick up that first down when needed. And, talking about Heisman hopefuls, if Derek King doesn't come out and get a W here, I think you can pretty much squash his hopes. But, with the rain coming into factor, I mean, that's a guy that I think could really have himself a big day, right? Because, when you take a dual threat quarterback like that, it could give that Clemson defense a little bit of fits, at least for the first half. But I think Clemson kind of distances themselves and, as John likes to say, social distance the score there at 7:30 p.m. on ABC. We've got a good one we'll talk about tomorrow more, slobber knocker. We call them up here in the Northeast, Boston College versus Pittsburgh. Traditionally, Boston College has been a ground and pound kind of smash mouth type of team. Jeff Hafley there now running a hurry up spread type of system. Pat Narduzzi, of course, going to bring a talented Pittsburgh defense. But shout out to our producers, super producer Samantha. 12 scouts will be in attendance from 10 different teams covering that BC Pittsburgh game. The Browns, Lions, Texans, Chargers, Dolphins, Vikings, Saints, Giants, 49ers and the Washington football team, which is good to see because I know for the month of September, Boston College had I think this game is in Boston College. I know that for the month of September, there was nobody allowed at the BC game. So I guess October now, we're seeing it in the NFL. Teams open up to fans, and it's good to see now teams open it up to scouts. So they will get a good one there. We'll talk more about that one tomorrow on NFL Draft Tailgate right here, 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. We'll do a college football preview with an NFL draft slant, of course, with John Murphy, David Turner, and Ryan Roberts. A lot of scouting experience there. It will be the best pregame show around. We'll try to do our best to deliver on that. Of course, NFLDraftBible.com. Are you signed up for Friday Night Scout School tonight? Speaking of the devil, David Turner and Ryan Roberts, they're going to break down Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes when he was at Texas Tech, and, kind of show you how to evaluate a quarterback, point out some of the traits and characteristics that you need to identify when you are doing your evaluation process. To me, still the most difficult position to evaluate. I think, wide receivers and quarterbacks, you see more misses in the first round on those two positions, but there's so many variables, right, when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. We had Russell Landy on Tuesday with his quarterback formula, but at the end of the day, you know what? If anybody knew how to effectively evaluate quarterbacks consistently, I mean, they'd be a billionaire a billion times over because it's just, it really just a lot of things to consider. So make sure you get signed up for that. Of course, the 2021 virtual NFL Draft Guide now available on NFLDraftBible.com. We'll throw in a copy of Scout Speak, the new scouting book there by Neil Stratton. And now it's time to dive in and flip the page over to the NFL, National Football League. And we've got a slew of good games to preview here. Let's kick it off with you, Big Law. Philadelphia traveling into Pittsburgh, Battle of PA. And you know what? The fact that, Philadelphia is here sitting in first place at 1-2-1. You play to tie the game, but that tie keeping them afloat in the NFC least. They travel over into Pittsburgh to take on the undefeated Steelers, who were essentially on a bye last week due to their game scheduled with the Titans, I believe. So how do you see this one playing out in the Battle of PA?
I have to say this. This is a phenomenal football weekend, first of all. And then we get into the pros, okay? And this game it's almost like it's a rivalry, but it's not like an announced rivalry, so to speak. But it is a rivalry. These two teams, the battle for Pennsylvania, they're gonna go at it. And I feel like Philly, no Peters, no Brooks, no Jackson, no Alshon. I just don't see how they pull this off with Carson Wentz playing, the level that he is. They're squeaking by teams that are not good. They're tying teams that they should have beat. Carson Wentz doing more than he. A lot of people are figuring that he's trying to do too much, and as he's trying to do too much, you're going against a team with a pass rush like the Steelers. I just don't see him having a good game. And if he's going to hold the ball like he is, T.J. Watt, Bud Dupree, I mean, they're coming. They lead the league in most sacks per game. They're averaging 5 sacks a game, and then also they got John Connor. John Connor's back. He's running the ball well again. Juju Smith-Schuster's a weapon on the outside. That they could take advantage. And I know Philadelphia has picked up my man Slay from Detroit, but I still don't see them slowing down Pittsburgh enough to win that game based on how Carson Wentz is playing. There's just so many injuries, on the Philadelphia side. I just don't see them coming in and making any differences in winning this game. But I do see that that Pittsburgh, they do have an opportunity to gain some ground into on Baltimore.
Yeah, you mentioned James Conner. Benny Snell's been doing a great job, giving him a little relief there too. I will say this. We keep talking about when might we see Jalen Hurts. It might be this week. You know what? Not due to performance, but due to injury, because, I've stated this in the past. I've been trying to tell Carson for years to stop sliding head first. He refuses to listen. Carson, hey, pick up the phone, man. I'm trying to help you out. But this Pittsburgh pass rush, I mean, it's as lethal as it comes. I'm talking about in the entire league. Mr. Bud Dupree and TJ Watt. And I'll tell you what, Carson Wentz, you want to keep it cute and fancy, mark my words. He's had about 4 injuries in his career. Every single one was sustained on this guy sliding head first. And you want to do that against Pittsburgh, watch out. Because I'll tell you what, you might see Jalen Hurts in there. And if it gets to that point, well, then, Pittsburgh and Big Ben, they're just going to, do that little handoff to Connor, handoff to Snell, and kill the clock. John Murphy, tell me if you see it differently.
No, I think, even without the point, I think it's a straight out win, by the Steelers. They're going to come in, they're rested. They were already pretty healthy, in terms of overall, when you look at where they were at health-wise heading into the game. TJ Watt, was a little banged up, but, nowhere near the list of injuries that Philadelphia has. And they've had to become creative, and not in the way that we've grown accustomed to the Eagles being creative. They've had to become creative in terms of keeping a tight end in, finding different ways to add blockers to the equation. They're having to do a rotated, offensive line at the moment. If Lane Johnson isn't 100%, he's been playing almost like a 6-man. He's in, and then he's had to be rotated out. That's not something you want with your offensive line, to have your starting tackle having to be rotated because he's on kind of a snap count, and stuff, because the Steelers will be smart enough to know when he's in, what's wrong with him, and then when he's out, they literally have 2, inexperienced, guys at offensive tackle playing against the Steelers. That's a recipe for disaster. And I think the other part that is now with Roethlisberger back and feeling the way he's feeling, and knowing that he's back with the defense that he had and the ground game. And you got DeCastro back, and now DeCastro's had 2 weeks to kind of sit and get healthier. Roethlisberger's 7-1 touchdown interception ratio at the moment. So some of what you saw Roethlisberger doing, a little bit of that Phillip Rivers trying to be hero ball at times the last couple of years, and he had some bad turnovers. If they avoid that in this game, it's a 10, to me, it's a 10-plus point win. They're scoring mid to high 20s on the regular. They're giving up 28-17-ish, kind of feel, to this game, because the 2 things with Wentz is, one, like you're saying, defend yourself and don't get smashed, and on the flip side, he's already has 7 interceptions and double-digit total turnovers, in the losses they have. So, I think the tie is more representative of when we say teams they should have beaten in other years. This isn't one of them. This is going to be one of the teams that looks at the COVID situation, the injury situation, and not being able to really fix what's happened with them. And it's all over the NFC East, because them and the Cowboys are in the same spot, right? You have your O-line is on the run. You have too many injuries, and you're not able to replace them with the right guys because you can't do all these workouts, and there's limited numbers when it comes to that stuff. I think it's, 1-3-1. It's the first team to 7 wins, and the Eagles, it's going to be a struggle to get them to 7. Maybe a struggle for the Cowboys to get to 7, but at least with Dallas, they have one side of the ball that's working, even without an offensive line. With the Eagles, you're turning the ball over. You can't just run it with Miles Sanders and nothing else, because teams can figure that out. This is a recipe for home cooking for the Steelers, and a very easy victory to me. One of the easier ones, I think, possibly on the schedule.
Well, kudos to Kevin Colbert there, because he just does an outstanding job year in and year out. And, you take a look at, they get rid of guys like Antonio Brown and Emmanuel Sanders, and, he plucks Juju Schuster and then Deontay Johnson. I mean, this guy, again, a day 3 pick. emerges as, really, I think one of the top, number 2 receivers in the league, underrated. And then, oh, by the way, he picks up Eric Ebron, who, provides that over the middle presence. It's like all of a sudden these Steelers are locked and loaded. You can argue they got the best defense. They got playmakers all over the offense. They're too deep at the running back position. This Pittsburgh team is really built for the postseason.
And you're forgetting the most productive rookie receiver, Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool.
That's right. I mean, another guy. Yeah, I mean, you get down in the red zone now. You saw him just go up and over people. You got Claypool, Ebron. Woof. I forgot about Chase Claypool. I really did. But, I mean, there's another guy that, especially by the time you get into that postseason mode, this guy's going to have some games under his belt where he won't be a rookie anymore. And, you talk about the Eagles, this loss gives the Cowgirls some hope now in the NFC least. So, that should be – whoops, did I say that? Did I say that out loud on air? Oh, I'm sorry, Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones. Let's switch it up now to the Colts. Suddenly 3-1 against the upstart Browns, 3-1. You've got, the Browns chasing those Steelers and Ravens. They need to win here, I think, more than any other. The Colts 3-1, sitting behind the Titans, who are 3-0. But, this Cleveland team, if they really are contenders, John, I think this is really a statement game at home to announce themselves and declare, hey, we're finally for real.
Yeah, I mean, 300 yards rushing last week, but now you're without Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt's a little banged up. Everybody got to see Dearness, Johnson do his thing, and you have Dontrell Hilliard, who's played well, for them, last year, as kind of an all-purpose guy, there. To me, this is a game that comes down to turnovers, because we have a couple of games on the schedule, this one and one of the other ones we're talking about, where Minnesota's going to Seattle, but there's no crowd. Cleveland at home at 3-1, with how that fan base would be responding at 3-1 after seeing what they saw week 1 against the Ravens, they would be at a fever pitch home against the Colts, to where I think that would have me kind of maybe swinging more in the Cleveland direction if there was no fan base or anything there. Now, you've seen how the Colts have played, and their defense is definitely rounding into form. They're not going to give up 300 yards rushing. This has to be a more balanced attack. They are prepared because the Browns' O-line has significantly played better since that week 1 performance against the Ravens. To me, this boils down to Baker Mayfield has to make his throws on second down, not get into long yardage situations. Rivers has held himself in check since those couple of bad passes week 1 against Jacksonville. Can he do that under pressure against the Browns on Sunday? And I'm actually going to go and flip it a third time and say, no audience at home, no pressure to perform in front of the audience at home, that Baker Mayfield and the Browns come out with an upset win at home, because I actually think this plays better for a team like the Browns, who are trying to do everything in the lowered expectation scenario rather than what we saw last year. This is much better for the Browns, that this isn't a Monday night game. This isn't under the lights and everybody's watching. You're playing a tough opponent after coming off the big win against the Cowboys. Being able to just concentrate on what's at hand, I give Kevin Stefanski a lot of credit. He is a good-looking, young, first-year head coach, because he's kept them on target, right? Don't get too far out of the concept. Let's not talk about we're back, or because where were you? You weren't back. You were just trying to get, on an even foothold. last year, and he's letting them build a little bit of confidence, right? He's letting Odell be a little bit of Odell and some others be themselves, and then let it rein in naturally, to itself. But I think this is a really good football game. If you want to watch a really good football game this weekend, this would be one of them. I think it comes down to the turnovers. I think they can cover what the Colts do. Don't be surprised if the Colts try to do a little uptick and run the ball, against them there to try to protect against, you want to keep Mayfield and them off the field the way they're scoring and the way they're playing offensively right now. The best way to do that would be with some Jonathan Taylor, control the clock and control the ground play. I firmly believe the Colts are a much better defensive team and a playoff caliber team. It just seems like right now the Browns have a good formula going for them. And I think being at home with no one to impress, just go play football, that is the best thing that's working for the Browns right now, is just worry about the game in front of you, not worried about all the glitz and glamour and all the stuff they were worried about in the past. I see them coming out with a very, very big win here and putting themselves in an excellent spot, kind of like we just saw out of the Bears. Just go out there and play your game, and by the fourth quarter, you're going to be in it still, and you have a chance to use your weapons then to come out with a big victory. You're not running for 300, but you come out of back-to-back games against the Cowboys on the road and the Colts at home at 2-0, you're starting to put your name in the hat, for being a true playoff contender, even if it's for a wild card spot. I don't care if the playoffs are extended or whatever. Cleveland Browns and playoff football, if you hear those two words uttered at the end of this season, you don't care in Cleveland if they expanded to 12, 14, or all 32 teams in the playoffs, as long as you hear Cleveland Browns and playoffs in the same sentence.
Not so fast, my friend. This is the game where, the NFL season pick'em standings, if you've been paying attention, I got John by one game. And I'll tell you what, you make a very compelling, convincing argument here. And Stefanski, he uses that pre-snap movement and motion, I think, just as much as anybody in the league does. And I will say this. You saw Landry with the trick play, the dipsy-do, flipperoo, downfield to Beckham. Now that the team is watching Landry, don't be surprised if you see the same play, but you flip it and reverse it, and Beckham is the one hitting Landry. They've been doing this since their LSU days. Beckham, believe it or not, has a cannon. He's had a couple of these plays for the Giants where he can get it downfield. I'm not even kidding. Beckham could hit it 70 yards downfield. And you might see Beckham to Landry this week. But I will say, reel it back in. My Colts, their defense, Jonathan Taylor, Rivers still getting himself underneath himself in the new environment. I think you see T.Y. Hilton do a little hula hoop dance in the end zone. I'm going to go with the Colts, but I got to say, it's a coin toss game. So we will go to Big Law to defer for the decision here. Colts or Browns?
Yes, playing the role of the Denver Broncos. Playing the role of the Denver Broncos from when Peyton Manning was still there, where the quarterback is in his later years, but the defense is elite, and they can do some things to get by. This team reminds me of that kind of a team. Their defense, their number one defense, in the NFL. They have one of the young studs, stud running backs out of college last year with Jonathan Taylor. Ran for 1 million yards in Wisconsin. So, I look at them being more of the steady team. The Browns have all the polarizing names and the players, and it's exciting. But Indianapolis, they're maybe they're a little bit more boring, but I think they're a better team. They're a little more steady. Baker Mayfield, I'm not a believer. He still scares the hell out of me. I don't think that, he's going to, if they do get to the next level, if they do get to the playoffs, if they do better and try to compete, later on in the season, I think that he's going to be the reason why they don't get to the next level as far as higher into the playoffs. I do see DeForest Buckner chasing them. He's having a great year. What a great trade for them, getting him over there in Indianapolis. I do see him having a great a great impact on this game. Also, you said it before, T.Y. Hilton, who is, he's having a good year, but he's a little bit under the radar typically for this team, because usually it's all about him because he's a star there. But, River, Jonathan Taylor, Mo Alley Cox, I'm telling you, man, Indianapolis, they're an under the radar elite team. Just watch out for the defense, and it's just a matter of Phillip Rivers just getting more comfortable being there, being in the environment, throwing some of the passes he's used to seeing. Phillip Rivers can still ball. I know San Diego, a lot of people have soured on him. Don't give up on them old quarterbacks, who can make all the reads, and if they have a good running game, I think that they can still do some things because they've seen the playoffs, they've seen some, so in some years, they didn't do well, but I do see him doing well this year with a more complete team around him.
Yeah, if Rivers clicks, watch out. The Colts can go far. Shout out to our chat room people. Daniel Cassidy, always appreciate the love and support. See you, Nijad. Rivers' arm, though, yikes. Yeah, I hear you, but you know what? It's up here.
Yeah.
He's going to get the job done. And I believe in the Colts this week. Of course, we'll be back to break it down on Monday. Of course, Sunday night football here. Quickly, fellas, I'll take this one. Minnesota 1-3 at Seattle. 4-0, has made a couple of cross-country trips. We've gotten that out of the way. They're back home at their, home confines. And I'll tell you what, we've said it before. Kirk Cousins has stolen more money since Sam Bradford. He's a thief. This is how not to build a team around your quarterback and how to build a team around your quarterback, right? Because if you're going to dole out $35 million to your signal caller, you better make sure you get it right. And you're seeing what happens when you get it wrong. All the players that Minnesota has had to let go, they've tried to patch and piece the defense together, but this was a dominant defense just a couple years ago, and because they paid Cousins that money, they've had to get rid of a lot of key pieces. They have got rid of Stephon Diggs, and now it's hard to build a team, whereas, let's be honest, at $35 million, Russell Williams a bargain, right? And so they have been able to kind of piece it together with veteran additions and keep this thing rolling there. If you take a look at what John Schneider and Pete Carroll have done since they've come to the NFL, my good friend Pete Carroll, they've done it, though, as good as anybody, and you can't debate that. So I think this game gets ugly. I could see, 38-17 type of affair. Seattle, by halftime should be on cruise control. So that's how I kind of see the Sunday night football matchup. It's been another hour of power, fellas, a Football Friday. Fun review. A lot of big games on the docket. Again, don't forget tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, we will have NFL Draft Tailgate along with John Murphy, David Turner, and Ryan Roberts. It's been too long since we've had him on the show to inject some great perspective. Who, oh, by the way, just posted a fantastic article on Trey Lance. Inside the film room, he's broken down the showcase game Trey Lance played this past weekend. He's got all his analysis, projections, what it all means. So check out NFLDraftBible.com. We've got it up there on Twitter as well. Of course, big shout out to our guests today. Big Law, Lawrence Johnson, 7 Cities ShopTalk, joining us here on Friday once again to break it all down. Give the people a parting shot. Let them know where they can find you, what you got going on. Tuesdays at 12 o'clock, right? But I also see you popping on. You can't contain yourself. I see you on post-game. I see you pre-game. You just got to pop on. You got to get it out of your system. I see you out there.
Speaking of that, absolutely. Well, you can get us Tuesdays at 8:30. And tomorrow, all right, guys, I will be doing a pregame, halftime, and postgame for the UVA NC State game at the Drury in Richmond and Glen Allen. So come on out, hang out with us. I got a spot down there, right there in the lobby area, down there at the hotel, the Drury Plaza in Glen Allen. So come on out with me and Chris West. We will be doing a show, and maybe we'll give out some gifts as well. And we're just looking forward to this big weekend, man, of sports. It's a good time. It's a great opportunity to finally get to travel some. We're going to cover the game, and we're going to see how all this kind of shakes out. But I'm looking forward to it.
All right, talk about under the radar, downtown Richmond, man. You know, they got some good stuff down there. Yeah, go.
Yes, they do. Absolutely.
Down there. Where are you going to be?
We're going to be at the Drury Plaza Hotel. It's in Glen Allen, going back towards the area called Short Pump. It's really nice. A lot of things out there to do. It's kind of like a nice suburb new developmental area out there. It's really nice. So yeah, we're going to be out there having a good time doing the pregame, postgame, and halftime shows out there. So be really cool.
All right. Well, hopefully the weather holds up. I know, John, you're right in the thick of it down there. We'll hold you in our thoughts and prayers. Hopefully the lights stay on and you can join us for tomorrow's show. But parting shot for the people here as we wrap up our 50th edition. Boy, oh boy, how time flies.
Yeah, well, so definitely thinking of all the people that will be affected by the storm this weekend. One other great Louisianan who is being affected by the COVID is Fred Dean, admitted to the hospital last night, dealing with complications evidently from COVID. If you ever want to watch what a pass rusher should look like, go do yourself a favor and watch some old Fred Dean film, as he is probably as close you will ever see, to a guy that was just totally unblockable in his time frame, credited with roughly mid-90s amount of sacks in his career. But I guarantee you, if we could go back and watch all the film from his era, the number would probably be, slightly higher. A guy that took his own path as he decided not to go to Grambling in that time, but went to Louisiana Tech instead and ended up as an NFL Hall of Famer, with great, just unbelievable defensive lines. You see who he played with, Gary Big Hands Johnson, when he was with the Chargers. Then he was part of that Niners team. Really, it's what put them over the top. And very interesting is that Bill Walsh told his scouts when they were trying to replace Fred Dean, go find me someone in college who can do what this guy does, and we will teach it to him. And who did they come back with? A guy at James Madison named Charles Haley. And it was all due to Bill Walsh basically saying, watch this film of Fred Dean. I want that guy. Find me a guy like him. And that's the guy we're drafting. And it ended up being Charles Haley. And on a better spot, you heard it, Cleveland Browns. You heard it, Baker Mayfield. The unbelievers are right here in the room. Right? You got the dog pound. Big Law don't want to be in the dog pound. He want to hang out with the Colts. He's going to still wear his Johnny Unitas jersey on Sunday. You heard it. They're saying Phillip Rivers is going to Cleveland and winning the game.
I think
Rick is still thinking that's Peyton Manning playing.
Noodle arm and all.
That's not Marvin Harrison. That's not Reggie Wayne. It's T.Y. Hilton.
You know what? By the fourth quarter,
the leading receiver is Mo Alley Cox.
Hey, yeah.
Mo Alley Cox. Leading receiver.
More about
We're not talking about getting rebounds. We're talking about scoring touchdowns. Not rebounds, touchdowns.
It's right. It's raining outside. Go cover the furniture. That's what Phillip Rivers is going to be saying by the end.
You got ODB with blonde hair again. Old style. I'm doubling down after what just happened. And it's not just going to be a victory. It's an ass whipping come Sunday. Because of the disrespect that you're getting right here.
All right.
Locker room material for the Browns is that Big Law and Rick said you can't get it done at home in a dog pound. Put that up on the bulletin board, Browns.
Yeah, because my daughter, she's got the Pog Patrol with the little cage. Lock them up. Get in that cage. Lock them up.
Locker room material right there. That is locker room material. Finally, if you want to know just how far the University of Miami has come in a short period of time, the last two games against Clemson, 96-3. So any outcome that is not 48-1.5 is an uptick for the University of Miami. That game this year for the University of Miami is just to prove how far have you come, because the last two times you've played Clemson, It's 96-3.
Ooh.
So you gotta admit that just getting in the ballpark of a 4-quarter game, is the first step. And then after that, it'll be really interesting to see when there's no Trevor Lawrence and no De'Ara King, and it's the next generation in the next 3 to 4 years. Can Clemson continue to dominate the University of Miami the way they have? They've come back on everybody else, right? They've checked off, some teams, on that list that were giving Miami the business the last few years. I'm not sure they're ready to handle Clemson just yet the way that they did Florida State. But don't forget, Browns, the disrespect. I need a W out of you to tie things up.
Well, hey, don't forget also, how is Clemson going to maintain when he goes off to the Washington football team and they're now the Washington Dabos or Washington Sweeties? But hey,
the fighting Dabos.
Hearts go out to the Dean family. Thoughts and prayers go out to the whole Gulf Coast region. Keep it safe out there. Again, we'll be back tomorrow. NFL Draft Tailgate, our season premiere. Make sure you log up for Friday night. Log in for Friday Night Scout School tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. NFLDraftBible.com for that. And, of course, the virtual edition, 2021 NFL Draft Bible. Get access to it as we construct it. We're already over 300-plus scouting reports. We're only in October. That number is going to at least double by the time we hit the draft. So don't wait for draft season now. Get on board today, and we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.